Hello, my name is Sam Amadi. I'm the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought and a board member of AYGF. 25%. 25% for me. You are surprised? Yeah, it's 25% because I think it's a very failing grade. The government has done poorly, extremely poorly, that now President Tinubu is being alleged to have outperformed Buhari in bad performance. So he has worked extremely hard to surpass Buhari in bad performance. Again, let's look at all the first. He didn't even set up his government well, the structure of his government. We can count numerous policy twists and turnarounds. You can even count appointments that were reversed. I mean, basic thing. Just 2 days ago, all the appointments into federal universities, polytechnics, and education and agriculture. This week, they issued about all the appointments, the council members. 2 days after, they pulled it back to go radical reform. So there's nothing the government has done well. I mean, you cancelled, it's over 6 to 9 months that the government dismissed all council board members of teacher universities. You would expect that within that period, they would have done their profiling, they would have done their screening, and then so even the matter of appointment. Just again, 2 days ago, they appointed somebody as DG of Osun Ogo River Basin, who is from River State. And yesterday, they reversed it. So basically, I mean, setting up government, zero. They did poorly. Policy consistency, very poor. The key drivers they mentioned about the economy is in tatters. So you can see not just the dollar, forex crisis, the inflation crisis, and the basic lack of direction in terms of policy. Now look at the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Water Project, massive. And people were telling them, do EIA. You've not done it. And Umahi was bragging and brutalizing everybody. Now they are saying, oh, we're going to reverse. Basically, so I would score them 20, actually, 20%. This is a terrible performance and surprising for a government that came on the basis that Tinubu fixed Lagos. So we expected more, that they should have appointed the right kind of people. Look at power sector. I mean, the Minister of Power this afternoon was talking about signing of law that was passed before Tinubu as an achievement. He signed a law as an achievement. So I think the government really needs to work hard, maybe dispense with about 60% of the staff, from ministers to SAs, a bunch of incompetent people in government, and you should just throw them away. If they do that, they have a chance of salvaging. But so far, terrible performance. I mean, if you are comparing with Buhari, who is worse, they are in a terrible spot. I think it's probably going to try, but it won't, stem the tide. But basically, I mean, if you look at this, you're talking about financial inducement. So they improve their salaries. They also have to improve their working condition. They have to also improve their safety. I mean, if you are a health professional and you come back from work later, you could be kidnapped or shot dead by maybe an irate police officer or some criminal in the neighborhood. The quality of life is the issue here. And so our leaders have not thought carefully around quality of life. In fact, in the UK, we also see doctors and nurses migrating to the US, all in quest of better pay. And so they're taking people from the Caribbean and elsewhere to fill the gap because the doctors in the UK feel they're not paid well. And they're moving to the United States of America, to Canada, where they earn more. So the push and pull factor of reward system is going to create a crisis for all developing countries. And what that means is that you have to improve. Look, if nurses and doctors have career paths that is glorious, if they have dignity in their work, people are not necessarily going to be changing work because there's a higher pay here or there. So they could say, even though we're not being paid as much as they pay in the UK, but we love what we're doing. The country is working well, we are secured. Most people will travel out to the country. If the difference in earning is $4,000 a year, they won't travel because the expenses are more, the dislocations, the loved ones you don't see. But the point is that you are earning nothing here. At the same time, your life is poor, brutish, and nasty. So I think that just adding a few hundreds to the salary will not cut it. You have to improve the dignity. You have to remove all those oppression. I mean, how can nurses and doctors who do hardship do work, and you won't pay them the hardship allowance? And every year they are negotiating, they are going on strike. So I think there's a real need to not just focus on salaries, also focus on condition of work, focus on professionalism, and also providing them the tools to work. I mean, if you go to hospitals and there are no laboratories and there are no equipment, people are dying because you can't have those things. A true professional who would like to practice his trade where he has potential to grow and enjoy the dignity of professionalism. So I think too little to stem that tide of Jaguar syndrome. I mean, we should not be worried about Jaguar syndrome, but we don't just get worried. We have to improve governance here, improve this country. And if you do that, you can see a reverse return, and people will like to come back to Nigeria to work and have dignity of labor, and of course live among their loved ones and be buried with their ancestors maybe. I think that's a smart, intelligent question. First is that, look, the central bank is kind of running against the wind. I mean, you have high inflation, and traditionally, the central bank thinks that to fight inflation is to increase interest rates. Again, to mop money back into the system, to create incentive for savings, and therefore reduce perhaps money supply. But again, the problem is that if you increase interest rates, you're going to also affect borrowing by small and medium enterprises. If we're not careful, we create stagflation, where you have inflation, you also have stagnation of the economy, and that's the problem now. So the central bank's monetary policy strategy may not work. Many experts are worried as how it can create a cost factor for small and medium businesses. Again, earnings are not increasing, and that's why people are watching carefully what happens to the federal government and labor negotiation over minimum wage, because it can go two ways. I mean, if it's not enough to provide significant livelihood for the working class, it means that there will be low consumption, and it means that will constrain production. Again, if some people are worried that if it's too high, it might create further inflationary pressure and forcing central bank to increase interest rate. The central bank wants to fight inflation with interest rate, and that could cause double problem for consumers. And you're right about, look at the way price of goods are going up. If businesses can have access to capital to finance expansion and production, it will be double whammy for ordinary Nigerians. So I think there's really need to be more smarter in dealing with this crisis. And for us as ordinary citizens who are burning our candle at both ends, we have to do with inflation, also have to do with increase in interest rate, and it might be that somehow along that picture, if we expand, the problem is that the policies of government are not expanding production. The answer to this crisis is, for example, food inflation, is more production of food. The answer to inflation generally is to have more local production and more export. Again, look at investment in the oil and gas, where we have about 90% of our revenue receipt. We're not getting enough investment from outside the country because our policy framework is not attractive. Flip-flopping. I mean, how can you wake up in the morning and ask somebody to pay 0.5% of every banking transaction? I mean, that's to get money for political people, and then suddenly overnight to cancel it. Nothing in the policy framework and management gives confidence to anybody that, I mean, you're destroying houses, destroying investment. Basically, I'm afraid what the future holds for us in the next 6 months. Yeah, I think Nigerians claim to be people of God, so I hope they have a reservoir of faith. But more importantly, I think there should be two things. We should be faithful, we should have faith, but we should be smart to understand what's going on and find ways we can mitigate our risks and find ways we can hedge the losses. We shouldn't trust government so much. We should trust government, but at the same time, we should trust our instinct and also try to help ourselves to survive these terrible times. I believe that it will be better, but then again, it will be better is not by itself. It's by people who know the problem and who work hard to solve those problems. So keep faith, but be smart. with this drum, I awake Nigerians. Rise up, keep faith, but be smart.